Right. Second talk, how to build a continuous client stream. Now, every freelancer, every contractor needs clients to have work to, pay their bills. But it's not all that easy to actually get clients and get work continuously. And I think any freelancer who's, started off, they know that they've had periods where they had lots of work and lots of money coming in, and then other periods where they didn't have any work. And it can be quite challenging to actually get some kind of stability in there, stability around to which you can plan the rest of your life and reach your financial and personal goals. But more work isn't necessarily good. So the first thing you should ask yourself when approaching this question is, how many clients do you actually need? We only have so many hours in a day, so many hours you can work during a week, and so many productive hours you can actually dedicate to work. The bigger question is, how many hours do you actually want to dedicate? Yes, maybe you could work 60 hours once or twice if it is really necessary, but that's, for most people, not a state that they would want to live in all the time. And it's probably also not sustainable for most people. So realistically, you should ask yourself, what work do you actually want to do? Short projects, long projects, or maybe just single engagements. It obviously depends on the industry that you're in. A software engineer is going to have different projects from a designer, and they're going to have different kind of projects from a business consultant. For example, design jobs are more often than not one-offs. Development jobs can be maybe a few months, maybe longer. Usually business consulting tends to be a quarter and longer from then onwards. And the second question to ask yourself is obviously, which clients do you want to work for? Do you prefer working for big corporates? Do you prefer working for mom and pop shops? Or maybe you don't work with companies at all. Consider the case of a freelance personal trainer, for example. They're going to work with individual clients, but they could, for example, want to offer PT to people training for a marathon or for sports competitions. They could focus on a specific age group or gender, for example, women between 30 and 50, or similar kind of things. And you really have to make a conscious choice of what kind of work can you provide for what kind of clients. And that in turn dictates how much you can charge for it and how much money you can at the end of the day earn. And more importantly, what kind of lifestyle you get out of it. What's really important in discussion, though, is that you shouldn't focus on the specific work that you do. That is important, but what is actually important is that you're delivering a service to a client. And for the client, it doesn't matter if you spend 20 hours developing in programming language A to build their software, or if you use a different programming language and only use 5 hours, except when you're billing hourly. What they care about is that the value that you deliver to them. For a business, it would be a business problem that you solve. Maybe they're trying to make a process more efficient. Maybe your software will help them make more money. Maybe, to come back to the example of the PT, the freelance personal trainer, maybe your clients care about appealing to their partner. Maybe they are worried about their overall health in older age. So by really understanding what problems your clients face, you can try and deliver the most value to them that in terms of solving their problem. And that's how you should think about your clients and think about the work you do, and obviously also present it to your clients in that way. Another distinction that you should consider is whether you should be a generalist or a specialist. There are benefits to both. If you're a specialist, you have detailed knowledge on one field or one specific type of technology maybe, or one type of personal training, And if you're the best in the field or one of the best, then you can also charge top dollar for that. You probably get approached for interesting projects. That can be rewarding. But equally much as a generalist, maybe you're not the #1 person in the field, but you might be in the top 1%. But if you're quite good at a lot of different things, you can not just solve this one specific problem for a client, but you can help them solve large problems in their organizations or in their personal life. So, for example, instead of just focusing on writing software, you could help a client design their business processes to solve the bigger problem their organization faces instead of just building a new piece of software that they think they need. But I'm not going to talk much more about positioning, because that's all essentially positioning: what clients you want to work for, what work you want to do, what's your niche. If you're interested in hearing more about that, we had a talk at the last meetups about finding your niche and self-marketing. So you can look at those talks and get more in-depth information on that. This talk is about how to actually, get a continuous stream of clients. But what you actually care about is not necessarily a stream of clients. What you want is a stream of paid engagements. And of course, how do you get them? You get them from clients. But that doesn't mean you need new clients again and again. More often than not, if you've done good work and your clients like you, then you can keep on working with old clients. Maybe not immediately, but maybe 6 months down the line. And often it is easier to reactivate or retain old clients than it is to acquire new clients. Actually, the same problem exists in business. It is usually much easier to reduce the churn on a product. Churn is the number of users leaving a specific service, than to acquire the same users as new users. So I'm first going to talk about what kind of new clients you can find. First of all, you can find new clients who need your help now. There are a couple of options for this. You could cold email clients and ask them, offering your services and trying to convince them to work with you, identify what kind of problems they have. That's quite time intensive, and oftentimes people are not going to answer your emails or calls because they get spam emails and calls from lots of people. So that can be quite ineffective. There are other options though. Often clients will put out tenders for bigger projects, or they will post jobs on job boards. For example, certain remote job boards for usually more employment type roles, as well as freelance projects on, for example, platforms like Upwork. There are also more upscale services like TopTal, where clients usually hire for more sophisticated positions where they expect a certain amount of quality, certain quality of work from the person they work with. And so using this kind of concierge service can have a lot of benefits, because you can get better and more interesting work for better clients than what's possible on kind of public platforms. However, this is all quite labor intensive and it's easy to fail. And sometimes you might be lucky and you might get 3 clients in a row, and then you have lots of work and lots of money coming in. But then maybe 1 month later, you don't manage to find any new clients at all, and then you're broke. That's obviously not great. So something else that you can do is to try and find clients who may need your help sometime in the future. Essentially, that's the same as before, but instead of trying to find work for right now, you try and convince clients that you would be a good fit for working for solving a certain type of problems for them, or perhaps get referrals to some of their contacts. That's not that easy, but if you manage to build a good initial relationship with someone, then that's entirely possible. But there are other ways to also find clients like this. So, for example, you can put up a website and social media presence and present the work that you do. And thereby, clients will have a reference point. Maybe they will subscribe to your email newsletter. Very good tool for high engagement, much better than social media, actually. And if you continuously in the back of their head because they receive updates from you, then they might consider you when they need your help. And this is really a numbers game. Probably a certain percentage, maybe 90% of people on your social media or on your email list, they will never actually have to work with you. But then maybe out of those remaining 10%, there will be some who have your problem, the problem that you can help solve, and they will remember you because they're on your list, and then they will reach out to you and you can have a conversation with them. So those are potential ways to find clients that may want to work with you in the future. Another option is, of course, to have clients find you. Again, a media presence is important here. So you should ideally have an online presence that is relevant to what you're doing. Oftentimes that will be a website. Maybe for some services, not even that today. So if you're, for example, a personal trainer, maybe you don't want a website. Maybe, Facebook, Instagram might be enough. At the same time, for a software engineer focusing on enterprise clients, they might not need a social media presence at all because their clients, they have nothing to post on Instagram and their clients won't look there. And for them, it would be more important to have an active GitHub profile where they have their open source projects listed, where clients can see their code contributions and thereby evaluate their strength as a software engineer. So depending on your niche, you should try and identify what kind of channels could be useful. Now, often that's not so clear-cut, so it might be worthwhile to just try and experiment. For example, you can try and put up content on a bunch of social media platforms, maybe launch a newsletter, see what the engagement is, and continue what works and stop what doesn't. And this is all essentially sales and marketing. What you're really doing as a freelancer is to run a small one-person business. So you have to do what every business does. You have to try and sell your services, acquire new clients, and you have to market yourself to the world so you can be found. And what you essentially can do here is run experiments. Apart from just having a social media presence, for example, you can try and run Facebook ads that are very targeted to a specific niche. For a lot of people, that's probably not going to work, but maybe in your niche it does. And instead of blindly throwing money at this, you can, in a smart way, take educated guesses on what kind of clients will be interested in what you're offering. So by running these small experiments, you can see what works and what doesn't work. Invest a bit of money if necessary, and see what results you get. Of course, there's also, you don't have to actually find new clients to get work continuously. A much easier way is to reactivate old clients. So if you're a freelancer and you've been around for a while, you have done a ton of projects for different clients, and hopefully they've been satisfied with your work. So why not reach out to them and ask how their business is going? You can periodically, maybe once a quarter, send them a follow-up email asking them how their business is going, whether they have any projects that you would be a good fit for, and then try and get new work from them. And often, when you first start off, this feels quite unnatural. It feels quite forced, but try and create an email or message template for yourself, and then just try and send it out to clients you've previously worked with and see what the response is. More often than not, they actually appreciate you reaching out. Sorry. Similarly, you can also ask clients for referrals. If you've done good work with a client, they will happily refer you to some of their contacts, because more often than not, clients with one set of problems will know other clients sorry. Sorry, with the same set of problems. So if you've done good work for a client, they will probably refer you. And if you ask them for referrals, they will often also be on the lookout for you. But again, this will feel unnatural at the beginning. If you do it more often, it will start to feel natural. Another option here is to ask clients for testimonials. Testimonials can be quite powerful. Something that I personally use are LinkedIn recommendations. So whenever I finish a bigger project for a client, I ask them to give me a LinkedIn recommendation, and that has actually helped me get quite a few new project requests based on the recommendations that they've given. One final option is to collaborate with other freelancers. You obviously don't have to do this alone. We're all trying to do the same thing essentially in our specific niches, and often we get asked to work on bigger projects that might be too big for what we can individually handle, or for that where we don't have the expertise to actually deliver the entire project. So if you make friends with other freelancers who have complementary skill sets, for example, a software engineer, a designer, a marketer, a copywriter, if one of them gets a bigger project request to deliver, for example, a large marketing website, then they could ask some of their contacts who are also freelancers to help them work on it. And if you are well connected, then lots of people might ask you. And if you offer a job to another freelancer first, they will most certainly repay you in the future. So that's something to definitely keep in mind. And that's also why meetups like this one are quite useful, since you can actually make contacts with other freelancers in your local region who might have those complementary skill sets. And of course, you don't have to do everything, and this is not prescriptive. You can essentially just try things out and create a process around this that works for you. These are all essentially different options. I don't use all of them. I've tried quite a few of them, but it really matters what kind of person you are, what kind of things you're comfortable with, and to create a process around this that you can keep up and that you enjoy doing day to day. And the good thing is you can start today. You don't have to do everything at once, but you can start doing, one or two of these recommendations, implement them, and then thereby slowly expand and hopefully build a continuous stream of work from satisfied clients for yourself. And that's the end from me. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, please post them in the Q&A. Otherwise, we're going to switch over to the discussion and Q&A session now.